Daniel, nice to see you.
Thank you. Okay, well, today I'm going to break a few myths about how we commercialise intellectual property and most importantly, how you raise money to do that. I've focused on a project called 6 Roadblocks, and we've taken just one of those, which is about a half-day workshop, and this is on funding, and I've now cut that down to what is today going to be about a 45-minute presentation for you. So, a little bit about me. I've been doing this now for 32 years across 3 continents. I'm a member of the UN Task Force for Innovation and Competitiveness. I'm the Australian representative on that, and we've done a lot of research which will come back in and I'll explain that to you in the last 3 years or so. I do a lot of portfolio management for public companies, private companies, listed, unlisted, here, Singapore, Malaysia, USA, and it used to be Canada, but not now. So, in the past, I've tended to avoid SMEs. That's the small inventors, and there's a reason for that. They're just as much work as the big guys, but of course there's a whole lot less reward for them, and therefore they're less likely to share it. So you focus where you can make the most and the least amount of pain. But I'm going to go through the main reasons why I chose to avoid SMEs up until about 4 or 5 years ago. Firstly, patent poverty. Most of you may know what this is, may have experienced it. You've got an idea, your friends at the pub said, rush down and get a patent. That's what you did. You've now got, you're down by maybe only $5,000, but you've got a clock ticking, and at 12 months, you've got to pay out some pretty serious money, and you still don't know whether you have value. But the most important thing is you're saving for that, and you can't actually get your project where it needs to be. It might not be just patents, it might be that you've got somebody talk you into tooling, design, consultants, accountants, lawyers, we all talk you into something. Consultants are just as bad. The 3 things you're going to want to know is they're going to want to tell you your project is the best they've ever seen. You need to spend money on it with them, and you need to do it now. And so I'll take all your money, thank you very much, and you can't proceed. So patent poverty is very real for small business inventors. The pitches that they do are hit and miss, and a lot of them end up doing 200 pitches, and they don't necessarily make any success with it, and that can be a big problem because you're just burning a lot of people. Usually they're going after people with money, high net worths as we call them, and it doesn't work out for them. There's also I need to be in command. I know this product better than anyone else, so therefore I should be in charge, and I don't want to share the leadership, and as a result projects tend to crash. There's seats here if you like. So the I'll drive mentality is there, and I've tended to see that as a big red flag for me. The marketing that people use is based around the 1%. To explain that, people come to me and say, I've got this product, it's in the mining industry. Mining made $400 billion in the last 5 years, and I just want 1% of that, and I'm going to make a fortune. You're going to make a fortune if you put money into it. It's not realistic. So we always focus on genuine market validation. And finally, they want me to work on equity or commission. I don't take equity, a minority shareholding in any company, because it's not worth it, particularly a private company. And I also don't work for commission. I do these days take on, when I do cap raise or when I do trade sale or licensing, I do take a success fee only, but not at the start of the project, because if those people aren't committed to it, it's probably not going to work for them, because it doesn't always go smooth sailing. A lot of this is really tough work. Okay, so in understanding why I changed, I had to ask myself, I went through the whys. Why do inventors not get the success that they need? And a lot of research has been done, but essentially I brought it down to 2 things: the wrong model and these list of reasons, which I'm going to give you very quickly. Individual inventors don't fit those conventional models. There's 3 models, and I'm going to explain those to you just briefly, but right now I can tell you they don't fit. They, being individual inventors, don't fit those models and can't make them work for them, unless they're only doing a licensing, in which case the product has to really be for a kitchen or a Bunnings type product, hardware product. They will work on licensing. Very little else does, unless it's got a very niche market. The advice they get from people like myself, from accountants, solicitors, patent attorneys, design engineers, isn't all that helpful. They're trying to make them spend money today. You can appreciate if I was a patent attorney and you walked in to speak to me, I would be crazy to let you go without spending money because I'll never see you again. So I'm going to talk you into a patent, a provisional patent, and then I'll lock you in for the next 5 years and make a lot of money out of it. But you still don't know whether you have value, so what's the point? Also, the government funding out there is pretty much worthless for you. If I explain to you that most government funding is dollar for dollar, and the government funding works on KPIs, the funding agents work on KPIs. So let's say they have $100 to lend out to people or to invest, and you apply for a $2 loan or a $2 matching funding. If they don't think you can come up with the other $2, you're more likely to get it. And the reason why is because you don't spend it, and that goes into their pot of money for next year. So then their KPIs, if they only spend $60 of the $100 for that year, let's say, then the next other $40 goes in, and they have $140 which they can lend out the next year. Their KPIs have gone through the roof. So if they're rewarded on KPIs, guess what? They're going to get pay rises. You're going to get pay rises for doing the wrong thing for you, and you can't change that. But if you can get the matching funding from an investor or a partner, then you can change that. You can actually correct the incorrection. Most of the inventors that I work with don't have a good understanding of how equities work. They understand capital markets, they understand shares, but they don't understand the value of shares over time and how people roll shares up and how you can divide them and split and how you get options and how you can get script for script rollover. And as a result, they miss out on a lot of this. And finally, they get taught very early to do 1,000 pitches. You probably some of you may have been to see people, mostly in the US. We don't have them here. I'm grateful for that. Where they come in and hold a concert and tell you all how to do it. I did a licensing agreement. I've done $400 million over the last 8 years with 5 licenses. I'm doing really well, and you should follow what I do. When you boil it down, they actually don't know how they were successful. But they'll tell you, make them want another pitch, keep pitching, keep pitching. Carry your pitch in a thumb drive in your pocket all the time. You might just meet somebody with a lot of money and you want to tell them. I say that's just a waste of time. I'm going to teach you why it's a waste of time and how to replace it. Okay, so on our UN task force, we did a lot of research on this. About 3 years ago, we broke it down to what is it that makes people invest and not invest. So we did this with small, we call them SME inventors, but we looked at projects under $1 million. That is whether the net worth after investment would be under $1 million. So they are quite small in terms of innovation. Now, we didn't talk to the inventors, we talked to the people who put the money in. And this is going to blow you away. First thing we did, we asked them, are you an investor? More than 85% of them said they were not investors. Some put money in, some chose not to put money in, we interviewed them all. And this is a result of about 19 months, and it was about 1,300 responses over 19 months. Are you an investor? No, I'm not. You put money in? Yes, I did. Big issue. The next one is, we asked them what was their one key reason, one little reason why they did or didn't. We didn't give them a list of things to choose from. We didn't prompt them in any way. We said, give us the one reason why you did or you didn't. And that was the goal. And we then mined that and were able to get a firm pattern from that and then take that and correlate it to a business model. And I'm going to share that with you today. Now, this model was made by 4 of us in a group. One of our 4 people is now head of NASA's Mid-Continent Technology Transfer Center in College Station, Texas. And he's using this technique on NASA products. So it's not designed just for under $1 million. Now, in our research, we've discovered, we did further research from that to discover what it was that made people put money into companies. Now, they don't consider themselves investors. Why did they put money in? And the first thing you think of is return on investment. So when you go to do a pitch, the first thing you're going to say is, give me $1 million and I'm going to give you back $2.5 million in 4 years. And that's a huge markup. You're going to love this. But in fact, it's not what they're looking for. And the reason why I've got 6 and not 5 or 10 is because number 6 is return on investment. That means there's 5 other more critical decision criteria for people to invest in projects, and you're probably not aware of them. So let's go through them. First one, novelty. Not patenting, but novelty. So they're not interested in a patent, but they are interested in whether they can derive a sustainable competitive advantage from what you have for them. Next is the team. They need to know that they can work with you, and it's not just, it's like a marriage. There's good times and there's bad times, because you work through the bad times. If you're going to split the dummy and go home, nobody wants to know, and they need to know that up front. So they're going to test you all the way through this before they say yes. Next, risks. Now, the way we do it is a little bit differently. We only hunt for money within the industry, and as a result, they know your risks better than you do. And if you don't know your risks, well, they're going to ask you, what are your risks and what have you done to contain them? If you can't answer that question, they're going to close the door. They don't want to know you, because they'll know your industry. And if you haven't worked out what your risks are and how you're going to mitigate those going forward, what's the point? You're going to just squander their money. Next, the commercial model. If you take one thing away from this, it's this. Your product, your invention is not worth anything. The commercial model you clamp around that is where the value is. I'm going to explain that a little bit more later on. And finally, the number one reason is leverage. I'm just going to give you one quick example of leverage, and that is customers. If I'm looking for money, let's say I invented a new wheel alignment that can be done for $50. It's a whole new way of doing it. $50 wheel alignment. Everyone else is charging $200. I'm on a winner. But I need some money to finish it off, do the trials, get it started, and then scale it up. I don't want much money, because the more money I give away, the less of the product I'll own in the end, or the company. So I only want a little bit to get going to fast start my cash flow. So I go along to someone in the tyre industry. I look for an independent in the tyre industry who's a me too. He's number 2, number 3, not necessarily number 1, he's not a manufacturer. And I say to him, how would you like to do $50 tyre wheel alignments? And for the 6 to 12 months that we're going to do R&D to finish this, you're going to have a sustainable competitive advantage over your competitors. Yes, please, I'm in that. So he's got 600,000 customers who bought tyres from him in the last 3 years. They're all in a database. He can send them all a letter saying, time for your wheel alignment, and it's only going to cost you $75. What happens? He gets flooded, you get flooded, you're on the list straight away. So that's how we do it, leverage. But there's 12 different types of leverage. That's just one, customers. Okay, I'll keep going. 3 models that the industry's worked on that are not going to work for you. The first one is the university process. Don't worry about the little writing. It's pretty hard to read. I'm just pitching slides from other areas and put them into this. So this is usually on the handout. So the university process works on the basis of abundance. Universities have lots of patent attorneys, they have lots of research. They tend to not necessarily get a benefit from the research, from the outcomes, but rather they want to sell it out early at ideation stage so they can get back in their research for their own division. So they might take an idea that's worth $100 today, it could be worth $1 million tomorrow, they'll sell it for $100. So then the company that buys it then contracts back in and gets 2 for 1 from the government for the research. The university gets the research. So the researcher who came up with the idea is getting maybe another $1 million worth of research, and he's happy. That's what he wants. He wants research, and he wants accolades. He wants recognition for what he's done. So he wants to publish. Other than that, he doesn't care about the money, because it doesn't go to him, it goes to the general revenue. So understanding that, you understand the university process will never work for you. They also have an abundance of patent attorneys and finance departments, and they've got funds which can fund you. So these guys don't have the problems you have, and they don't think of those problems. You can never do that unless you marry up to a university, and they'll sell your project very early if they do. The next is the corporate one. It's called stage gate process, if any of you have heard of it. This is where, it's like the Hunger Games for research or for innovation. They might start a year with 10 projects, 10 teams, and they say, come up with the best project, we'll commercialise them, the one at the end of the year. They meet monthly and they eliminate one every month. Which one doesn't stand up? By the end of 10 months, they've got 1 project left, and everyone thinks that must be the best. But they've got 9 other teams thinking, that's not the best, mine was the best. And so it gets sabotaged. But it has a greater chance of succeeding than any other process, and the reason for that is because the company has the resources to put behind it. So ultimately, people then want to put their name on anything successful. The final one is those gurus who come to town and tell you, I'm in the licensing business, you should get into the licensing business. Licensing is good, but it's not for everybody. More importantly, they tell you, go and do 200 pitches a month to everyone you can find. In fact, they would recommend that you pitch to each other here because somebody here might have enough money to put into your project. That's worse than Nicky. What you want is something far more structured than that, and I'm going to give that to you today. Now, what that gave us was a whole lot of questions about them, but the inventors then had a whole lot of questions for us. I'm going to run through some of those to give you an idea of whether or not I can connect with your thinking on this. Firstly, where's my value? Where's my product? Is it my product? Is it not? And I've pointed out to you it's not, and I'm going to explain that in a little while. So that's a big shock for a lot of people. Why is my value my product? That's my innovation. That's everything I've done. The next one is why cash up front? We asked that. Why do you need cash up front? If you're taking a project through early stage commercialisation into the market, you don't need to get the full amount of money to take it there up front. You just want a commitment to that. And so on month by month, bills come in. The competitor, the partner pays those bills, the collaborative research partner, he actually gets a tax deduction for that at 1.5 times, so 42 cents in the dollar. You don't get that if you pay those bills directly. So why should he put the money into you? If he puts in $500,000, he gets back $320 from the government when his next tax bill comes around. You don't get that. So why should he then worry about $500,000? All he needs to do is pay the bills as and when they fall due. He still pays $500,000. He gets a tax deduction for it. That's exactly what you want. It's what he wants. So why is more experience needed? If I know everything about my product, why shouldn't I run it? Why shouldn't I be in charge? And I'm going to explain that a little while with the hats. So one of the valid questions that comes up. Should I start with a patent? It's a big one, and I'm one that says, no, I've worked with a lot of patent attorneys, I've ticked a lot of the patent attorneys off, but I can tell you, you need protections, you don't necessarily need a patent, and I'll explain myself for that. Can I control everything? Goes back a little bit to the experience thing. I need to be in control because I know it better than anyone else. No one else should make decisions on it. That's a red flag for most people. If you want control of your product, then you pay the price by funding it yourself. The only person that should put money into that is named Mum. Next, how do I value it? How long's a piece of string? We give you a formula to value it. Right now, in the future, as you step through, as you reach certain milestones, your value accelerates, you should get recognised for that, but you have to meet the milestones. So we have process for that, but right now you're thinking, well, maybe I've spent 8 years working on this part-time, let's say 25% of my time, so that equates to 2 years, and in salary I get $200,000 a year, therefore this should be worth $400,000 to anyone who invests in it. So that's not the case. Your time is not worth anything. It's really what the value is to, and we'll give you models for that in a while. And also, do investors need an exit? They're coming along for the ride with me, they make heaps of money, why not? The fact is, the investor isn't forever. They've not married you, they don't want the problem, someone else took that responsibility. They just want to get in, get out, and they want a reward for that, and they also want to know that their money is safe. So, because ultimately, even though they don't consider themselves an investor, they're putting their family's money up. They want to know that it's secure. Finally, how many investors? A lot of people think, okay, if I get 100 people into this, at $10 each, I'll have the money I need to get this over the line. But in doing that, you're going to have 100 shareholders. That gives you a whole different problem. I can tell you if you take 100 shareholders on, that Monday mornings for you will become what we call investor relations. And you'll field probably 30 calls out of 100 every Monday morning. And the question is, how's my money doing? It's not what they ask, but that's what they mean. How's my money doing? And you don't want to do that. So if you narrow it down to 5, down to 1, you're much better off. 1 as a collaborative research partner who becomes a partner, who then becomes an exit, is the best way to do it. I'm going to show you that model. Now, this process is a linear process. From the time you, at ideation, you come up with your idea, right through to when you trade sale this, license it around the world, and become a policeman for your license, or you grow it out, you IPO it, which is a public listing, all the other different options you have. It's a linear process. In between there are 6 major roadblocks, and I cover those roadblocks, we won't touch them tonight, but I'll show you what they are. But because it's linear, I'm going to show you the model in circular, because I'm different. So what I'm going to do is just charge through this model so you understand it, and this might set off some bells for you. Firstly, we have the ideation stage. This is where you come up with an idea, it has no value at all, but you're trying to get the idea, get it through, get people, formulate it, get some and you'll start to look at who's going to buy this and how they're going to use it. The next one is the concept. This is where we're trialling something. You might do a proof of concept. You might go out there and talk to people who would otherwise use it, how much they're prepared to pay, what their problem is, and how you're going to solve that problem better than anyone else. At the end of this point is a critical decision point, and that's where you transition to a project. Project starts to run it as a company. It registers a company, it's got money in it, it's now running it up, and you measure it a little bit before you scale. And sometimes we scale in project, but mostly we scale in as a company. Scaling is where we take it from 100 sales a week to 1 million sales a week if we can. And we do that with, when we want to exit, we line up all that for licensing. We set up our licensing, we set up distribution points, however we're going to grow this out. And the final stage in that is the exit. Now, everyone says, oh, I don't want to sell. We don't have to. The exit isn't necessarily for you. It's for the person who put money in. Let's not call them an investor, let's call them the partner. They put money into this, they need to know when to get it out. At that point there, you're just facing 4 decisions. One is, I stay on the pathway with this as it becomes a company, and I can tell you probably won't want to do that because you're going to then be a cog in a big wheel, and you're going to have to do what you used to do when you work for salary, and put in reports and sit at a desk all day, and it's going to kill you. But you'll get a good salary, and you get to stay on your project, so that's an option. Second option is I sell it all out and I either get cash or I get shares in the company that bought it, and those shares I can use as cash and do what I like. That's an option too. Third option that a lot of people take is go back to ideation. There's very few inventors I've met who only have one product. They usually have anywhere from 5 to 25 products and lots of ideas. But they've got a little bit more than that $1 billion napkin. They've probably got about 5 or 6 of them in the drawer in the man cave or wherever they've got hidden away, and they want to do something with that. So, and I'm saying that is an option, but it's probably not the best option. The fourth option is the option that I would talk to you about, and this is where most of my inventors go, and that is a shortcut. The reason why they go around again with someone else's product is because from the project right through to the exit is a period of about 6 to 18 months, depending on the project. Now, from ideation, from the idea to the concept, is anything from 2 to 5 years, and you're getting no money for it. Nobody's rewarding you because you haven't got a value yet. Even though you're building value, you don't actually have anything you can cash in. So it becomes a big problem. So most people say, okay, I've cashed out with $5 million for what I've just sold, and then I tap them on the shoulder and say, why don't you put $500,000 into the next project that looks like what your expertise will help with, and you become the mentor, you become the backer, you become the partner, in fact you're an investor. Go in there and you drive that project through the project stage into the company and then the exit, and you go around again. Now that gives you the circular process, and that works really well, and I'll explain to you just how well it works. But the third lap round, people don't necessarily just take another project. They then become the incubator. The last chapter in that book talks about be the incubator. That's where you might take 5, 6, 10 projects and create an incubation process where your expertise is now worth value. And people will clamour for that because you know how to raise money. After this 100 days challenge, you'll know how to raise money. So as a result of that, that's a skill that I don't have anymore. You have. We share it. So you become my competitor if you like. So that's why I do it online. It lessens the cost for me. So that's the model. And that's the model we've been using with SMEs. It's radically different from the stage gate model with corporates and with the university or tertiary models, which won't ever work for you. Okay, now I talked about 6 roadblocks. The 6 same roadblocks in that linear process that you all hit. The largest is the middle, funding, and that's all I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight as to why funding is so hard for you guys, and I'm going to give you some solutions to that. So that'll be the next half of this. So obviously you can see modelling. People don't see that as important, and they skip it, and they go straight into funding usually. That's not what you need to do. If you don't get your modelling right, that includes your ownership, your value, and your exit, all planned right up front. So when you're going down through the process, you're not taking any risks as you transition from one to the next. Okay, so let's talk about funding and why it's so difficult for you guys. Most people, projects grind to a halt at any one of those 6 roadblocks, but they mostly grind to a halt at capital and not realising that they're really held up by 2 before that, but that's beside the point. Capital is your biggest hurdle to overcome, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, I'm going to give you 10 scenarios as to why the one of these may be why your project hasn't got funded if you haven't got funding yet. First thing I'm going to say is patent and prototype. If you rushed out and got a patent, you started a clock ticking, and it's now going to cost you a lot of money. I can tell you this, the US Patent Office in 1995 to 2005 ran a longitudinal study. It was for people who took out patents over, they got them at the 5-year mark, so it's people who took patents out with the US Patent Office in 1990 right through to 2000. And it got stopped after that. Clinton started it, and it's got stopped after that. What they did is they asked questions. They didn't give them amounts, but they said, how much did you earn? Did you earn enough? The first question, the first base point was, did you earn enough to pay for your patent costs? And more than 98% of people said they didn't. That gives you an idea just how much your patent's worth. In fact, your patent could be a noose around your neck if you're not careful. 98%. We don't advocate getting patents until after you've got proof of concept, market validation, you know what the whole thing's worth. At that point there, it's worth getting a provisional patent, providing you know the money's about to drop into your project to get you from 0 to cash flow positive in 12 months, because that's when the patents are due, and it's not your responsibility, it's the company's responsibility. That is a very critical point for you. Most people go broke there. Next, people hunt for wealthy investors. They think anyone who's got a few $1 million, $10 million, $100 million, I'm going to go after them. They can afford this. They need this. They can afford it. Not the case. It doesn't matter how much they like your project. It'll probably never get through, and that's because the first thing they're going to say to you is, "I'm sold. I love it. Send me the paperwork. I'll give it to my people." Financial planner gets it. Financial controller gets it. Accountant gets it. Lawyer gets it. They're all gatekeepers. They don't want to take your $1 million that you've asked for out of circulation, their circulation, and spent on somewhere else, which is a great big black hole. They have no control over it. So they're going to want to talk him out of it. And they've got 4 or 5 people all onto him saying, don't do this, it's a waste of time. And they'll do anything. And generally, if you hit on the high net worth, no matter how well you know that person, they're probably not going to end up investing in you. They'll like your product, you won't get them over the line. Next, the one or many. I've talked about that a little bit. You don't want to end up being in investor relations for Monday mornings. I've seen it. I had a toy project here. We got 280 investors. We had $5.3 million we raised. We were 5 weeks out of IPO before things crashed because of the activities of one of the people in there. But in the meantime, Monday mornings, managing director had to answer the phones. He also raised a lot of money at his golf club, and those guys were just mates. They all ponied up a few dollars. Well, they'd never invested before, so what do? They want to know how it's going. So whenever he played golf, he had to talk to 60 people. So every time he's done a course, somebody's coming back the other way, hey, how's it going? So all these times just soaked up. And he's got to do the right thing. They're not friends, they're investors, they're his shareholders. What about the invention? The focus for you, you'll feel anxiety about this, but it's all about my invention. Why are you ignoring my invention? And I can tell you, it needs to be ignored. Invention doesn't have a value. The business model you clamp around that has the value. And I'm going to ruin Shark Tank for you forever. When you see Shark Tank, you see 3 or 4 or 5 sharks, however many there are, sitting there watching a newbie present his product. He's all excited about his product and what it's going to do for everybody and how it's going to save people. They're not. They're thinking about the commercial model. What commercial model can I wrap around this to best make money out of it? They'll never tell him, because if he gets that, the secret's out. So they're always talking to him about, we can do something with it, I'll put in a little bit. They've worked out what that's worth because they know how to clamp the model around it and how to interface it to a market and how they can get demand. Next, did you put yourself in charge? If you're an inventor and it's, let's say, an engineering product or a bioscience product, chances are you're good at engineering or bioscience. But are you good at finance, accounting, legal, marketing, sales, all these HR, all these things that you need to be an expert in if you're going to get this done. And the chances are, if you've never run a company of a substantial size, then people are putting money in for you to learn on their dime how to do it, and they don't want to do that. So what they're going to do is ignore that and say, no, we need to put somebody else in there. If you need $400,000 to run this, maybe we'll put $500,000 in and put a guy in there. And straight away you think, whoa, hang on, you're going to run my company. No, he's not. He's actually going to reduce the risk for you and for them. So be mindful of it. It usually will happen very early in the first pitch. Have you been chasing venture capital? Lots of people out there go after venture capital because these guys have lots of money to lend. But venture capital do not invest in projects or in ideas. They invest in cash flow. Venture capital and private equity funds buy cash flow. So they're looking for companies with $5 to $20 million turnover that they can quadruple or 10x that project simply by putting another $20 million in. Plus, they're not looking for projects that they can just add money to. They want to add their expertise, they want to add their contacts, and they want to add their customers. They know where to get your customers. They can do that, they mitigate all their risk, they accelerate your project, and they bounce out of there before you then go on to the next buyer. So they're pretty ruthless about it, and they also want to drive it, manage it, but it mitigates your risk substantially, even though you're down to maybe from 50% down to 10%, you'll still make more money than that. Surprisingly, it does work. But they come in at company level. If you remember on the cycle, we talked about company just before the exit, and they scale up the project. That's what they're interested in. We usually don't use venture capital, but we do use private equity funds, and they do work quite well, but they're ruthless. Next, probably end up being jaded after 15, 20, 50, 100 presentations and thinking, these guys aren't biting, I'll up the amount that I'm promising. And that's a big mistake because they can see through it. If you pitch into the right people, they're people who understand your business, your industry, your market. These guys will know the model, but they should. If they don't, they're not interested anyway. If they know the model, they're going to look at this and say, well, that's not realistic. So they're not going to tell you that, they're just going to thank you very much and wish you all the best. And you'll never get anywhere, so be realistic about what you want. Finally, did you give them an exit? It's most important that the people that come in with money need to get out with more money. And they need to know how you're going to handle that, when you're going to do it, and what they have to do to get that done, and what you've done to manage the risk of their money when it's in there. If you can't do that, what's the point? So having an exit, a planned exit, is very important. We do that at one of the stages which we call value realisation point, because you don't necessarily get out, but they probably will. Some don't. Some will say, I'll take this to, I've had an accounting firm, a block away, who said, we'll take this project on and IPO it. So will you come with us? And they got backing from a group of investors, put it all through and off it went. So it went very well. But it was beyond what the expertise of the inventor, and he's quite happy, well, it's actually 3 inventors, and they were quite happy to let it go at that. So, how long is your presentation? A lot of people don't realise that people go to sleep in 20 minutes, and I've been talking now for 30 minutes, and you guys are still not blinking yet, but I'm pushing the boundaries. So if I'm asking you for money, you're going to be shutting down about now. If I want to talk for 45 minutes about me, and then 45 minutes about my project and the innovation and how sexy it is, and then I want to go for 2 hours and slander my competitors and the people who ripped me off on my last project and how well I do with fishing and everything else, I'm going to lose. These guys are going to start nodding off. And some of these, particularly venture capitalists, are experts at sleeping with their eyes open because they go through presentation after presentation. And if you haven't got the courtesy to read the body language, they're not going to want to know. We invented something called the 3 Ps of presentation. The 3 Ps is all about getting a presentation done with a 12-point pitch in 20 minutes. 20 minutes, that's all. And I'm going to explain to you just what we do in that 20 minutes. It's these 3 things. You can focus on these when you do a presentation. Notice I don't talk about the product. The reason why I haven't is because you got your appointment talking about the product, so they know what the product is. Walk in there, you're talking about the offer you want to make to them, the leverage they're going to get out of this, and then what their exit is, how much they're going to get, how they're going to get it, when they're going to get it. Let's do that. You could focus on that, you're going to solve a lot of your problems. And that gets done with a model, a completely different model from what you've probably been using. So, what I want to do now is give you 10 truths. These are things that the industry never told you that you need. For those of you with a phone, at the end of this, it's all small writing, feel free to take a photo of it. There's 2 or 3 slides here you should really want to take a photo of if you want. Okay, so I'm just going to run through these really quickly. First one, product is not the most important thing. I've talked about that already, you know that. Next, the returns are not what investors are looking for. In fact, they're not even calling themselves investors. If you do it right, you don't call them investors either. Applying for grants can be worthwhile, but only if you've got the backing. If you've got the other funds ready to go, don't apply for funding because they'll want to give it to you, knowing you're going to fall over. And you don't want that. The clock starts ticking, and if you don't take it up in 3 months or 12 months, you don't get it again. 98% of patents never realise enough cash to pay for the patent costs. That's a fact. Now that was a 2005 fact, but it's nonetheless a fact. Model and valuation before patenting. You need to know what it's worth, what the net present value of future earnings is going to be based on your market research validation, and you need to have a proof of concept of some description, not necessarily a prototype. You can do a proof of concept without a prototype. I've done it lots of times. Next, licensing is only one exit option. A lot of people will sell you on the idea of do licensing, it's crazy, it's good, it's true. Well, let me tell you what it does. It takes your engineering hat off, and now you put on an auditor's hat, because you've got to go around the world to all your licensees once a year and make sure they're not cheating on you. And you have to do that in such a nice way, but at the same time, public companies are easy. You just look at their balance, their P&L, you look at their annual reports. But the private companies, they'll cheat. Americans, they'll tell you all about, oh, Chinese, Indians. Americans cheat, big time. Bigger the companies, pharmacology, they cheat all the time. Next, start with leverage, look for reciprocal clients. That's how you target who it is that's going to put money into your company as a partner. If you don't do that, you're not going to get it. Venture capital invest in cash flow only. They don't invest in ideas. Don't bother with cash flow. Unless you've got cash flow, don't bother with venture capital. That includes private equity funds and all the others. Bring only your proven skills to the project. If there's skills required, you don't have them, accept that, and accept someone else will come up with it. Anybody want a big photo? There's your first photo opportunity. Okay.
Cheers, guys.
Now my shameless sales pitch. I've got 5 minutes to bore you senses of what I do, so you can understand it. Today, I do a lot of things, but today I want to talk about my online project that we've got, which is now about to go global after this year. We're going to run it here this year, and it's called the 100 Days Funding Challenge. I'll give you a website called 100dayschallenge.com. You can look at it later on. I'll give you that at the last slide. What this does is it takes you in 14 weeks from people who are free funding through the funding process, and we hand-hold you all the way through it. At the end of it, we pretty much guarantee it, because at the end of it, if you've done everything we've said, and you can produce all the documentation, and you've done the presentations, and you haven't got it, we'll do it for you. So that's not bad. We do it, we charge you a fee, but it's a success fee only. So you don't have to pay us if we don't get it. That's how confident we are. If you use our process, it's going to work for you. But our process begins before you start in the evaluation. It's 14 weeks of coaching. It's usually 30 minutes a week, plus there's online stuff which is shared. You get 30 minutes one-on-one, and mostly we do that on Skype or Zoom, but you people are in Western Australia. And so I'm coming back into Western Australia in terms of my work theatre, and so I'm in a situation where I'll take some of you on and I'll give you a bonus, 2 bonuses. One, 30 minutes, you'll get face-to-face. To get that, you have to buy me coffee. It's got to be a coffee shop of my choice, and I've got 3 coffee shops around Mount Pleasant where I use, and that way I can cycle there and we can get it all done. Now, if you want an hour, that's lunch. So, other than that, you've got all included. We work with you on that weekly basis. We make sure that you keep on track. This is me making sure that you learn, you embed these habits, and then you don't need me next year. You'll be able to do other projects, you'll be able to do other people's projects, but I'm giving you the technology and you should be able to do it yourself. There's no way after 14 weeks you don't know how this is done. Now, I'm going to go very quickly snap through these 14 weeks so you understand what it is. Firstly, we do the modelling. It's important that you get the model right. If you don't, and I've got projects that I've been on, and I'll very quickly point out that one of my biggest projects I never got funded was because we couldn't work a model. We've only now, in the last 8 months, worked a model that will work. This project is called Peloton. It's West Australian. For those of you who know, there's 4 guys in Fremantle who are off-the-chart brilliant scientists. They're what holds them together, they're all extreme Asperger's, very clever people. These guys came up with one of them taught himself 27 languages. He travelled the world for 4 or 5 years. He learned to read, read and write and speak 27 native tongues. So he's now got a programming language, which really programming languages only have 640 different commands. But he's done it in 28 different languages. So I can program in English, which everyone else in the world at the moment has to do. But you can program in English and flip it into Urdu, Hindi, Japanese, Korean, Farsi, anything you like. You can flip it, including Swahili. You can actually do it in Swahili. These guys taught themselves that in order to program in those languages. And the reason why is because they recognise programmers have a particular problem. English is the hardest language to learn, to really understand. An example they give me was the word reverse. Reverse is a command in programming language. Reverse can be go backwards, turn around, flip, invert. It's a whole lot of different things. And if you're not fully understanding of English of what that reverse is, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Imagine trying to do that from a base of Turkish or from French, German. Reverse. Okay, that's backing up. What do I want to back up stack of figures up for? That's not what you want to do. But if you're able to do that in German and then switch it back to English, so someone else can have a look at it. Now the reason why they came up with this was because, I'm trying to get too far into this, but they looked at the way Japanese program e-prompts. It's all in English. Every TV you get, it's Japanese commands are all done in English, and they're flow-charted and given to English programmers in what they call programming districts in places like Tokyo. And what they said, let's eliminate the problem. What they didn't understand was the Japanese said, that's a nice product. We don't have a problem. We solve it. We just pay those people. So it's not a problem to us. So then we tried to turn it into a product with education. And we said, $1 a year, you could learn this language as your prime programming language, and forever today, the students learn this through high school and university. Firstly, it takes about 1/10 of the programming capacity needed to write code. But more importantly, it's flipped in different languages. But we didn't get it going until, and I'll quickly give you this story because it's important. They came back to me, we said, it's not working. I said to them, I want you to take your product as a language and write a program. Write a program in it that works, that gives somebody, solves someone's problem. Now these guys were Asperger's, so I said problem. They heard problem, solve a problem. They went off and they Googled it, came up with a paradox, Wanamaker's paradox. For those of you who don't know John Wanamaker from 1903, I think he was in Pennsylvania. He owned it like a Macy's store, one of the biggest in the world at that time. And he posited that 50 cents in every dollar that I spend on advertising is wasted. I just don't know which 50 cents. Those guys went and solved that problem. They did it here in Perth. They trialled it with RAC. It went extremely well. But then they tried to sell to ad agencies. And really what it was doing to ad agencies was making them honest, and they didn't want to be honest. So it died horribly, but we got it out. So we're in the process of doing that. But an example of you don't have the right model, you're not going to make money. We then talk about investor readiness checklist. That is market validation, proof of concept, and what we call a transition audit. Transition audit, to give you a quick description of a software transition audit, is I say, put on the table your complete disk or a thumb drive with all of your source code on it. Okay, you've got that. What's your packaging? What's your distribution agreements that you've got? What's your ownership? What's your agreements you've got with all the stuff that they don't own any of this? I need all of that seen on the table and passed across the table from the inventors to the commercialisers. It could be the same people, but they still have to physically pass it across the table. That way I know it's there. Because sometimes people say, oh yeah, we'll get around to packaging one of these days. No, you're not complete yet. No one's going to put money in if you haven't got that. So that's what we do. We complete the project, the package, before we ask for money. Next, we get your key pitch statements, elements. So we're looking at what your pitch is. Your 12-point pitch, we go and get all 12 of those, we pull them out, we make sure that we know what it is you've got, that you need, and we talked about the 3 core areas. We said about the most important one, of course, was leverage. So After that, we're going into identify who it is that we want to target. And we're not going after just anybody, we're not going after people with money, we're going after people who already have vested interest in the market you're approaching. Because those are the people who need competitive advantage and they will pay for it. But they don't give you cash, they want to carry on and be partners with you. And that's how we do it. We collaborate. But ultimately they give you cash. They just don't call it that. Next, we build the pitch. That's important. There's two parts of the pitch. There's the PowerPoint presentation, 12 slides, plus one for questions that we do at the end. The other one is the offer document. That is a legal document, so it's got to be careful how it's written. We give you a format for that and you write it. Some people have a problem with that. We allow you to outsource that to, we've got people who'll do it. But they're going to charge you $500 to write all that if you want. Now you can outsource it, and we recommend that we show you how to outsource your PowerPoint presentations to make them more glitzy and glamorous using Upwork online. It's like eBay for services, and you pay maybe $50 to get something like that done. From there, week 7 is your legal review. Very important. We talked about attorneys here, but it's solicitors in Australia. It's important that somebody looks at this, your accountant, your solicitors, and say, that meets Section 708 of the Corporations Act. If you don't, you're in trouble, we're in trouble, we don't want that. So you need to get that review and get it signed off before you then go to the next stage, which is you with your telephone on record, and you're doing your all singing, all dancing version of it to yourself. And you could be doing that in your car on your way home every night. For that week, you're practicing what it is you're going to do in your 20 minutes. Then you come to me, and I'm cruel. But there's a reason for it. I'll rip it to bits and rebuild it with you. And ultimately, you'll have it down, you'll be able to do it in 20 minutes, you won't put anyone to sleep, you'll get them exactly what they want, and you'll get to the point where they will make a decision, and you will ask for that decision and get it. So people can make a decision in 20 minutes if they know what they've decided. If you've left off things, they can't make a decision. Yeah, send us in the mail, we'll talk about it. You're walking away without a deal. Next, we start getting the appointments. This is a scripted process we use, and we'll give you the script. We insert into there what your product and project and market and industry is, and we make sure that it all fits nicely. And the whole idea is not to sell your product on the phone, not to sell your idea, not to sell what you want, but rather an appointment to, I'm looking for a partner or a collaborator to work this project. This is what it's going to be doing. And that's all we do. When we don't talk about the product, we talk about the outcome of the product. So we solve this problem for these people. So that's important. Because my invention here is a course. But when I talk to people about it, I talk to them about I help inventors commercialise their intellectual property and raise money. So completely different. You don't know what the course is. But that's not what I get my appointment for. Afterwards, we go through there. After that, we do the pitch. That takes 3 weeks, but you're only doing 4 pitches. Usually we get funding within 4 pitches. If we don't, there's something wrong. And it could be that at the end of 4 pitches, we take the product on under a limited warranty and we'll do it ourselves. But we'll charge you 6% of the capital raised. And sometimes we won't let you come because it could be that something you're doing or not doing or saying that it's actually detrimental. And sometimes we have to put people in the box and not let them come. So it's pretty hard when somebody says to you, yeah, I want to go and take the project and get an investor for you, but you're not allowed to come. But you have to face the reality. If you're your own worst enemy, you need to know. Well, I'm all for reality. Okay, how much does it cost to get this up? If you work for BHP, FMG, and I've done projects for a lot of these type of companies, public listed companies, I'm going to charge you about $60,000, and I'll do it with 2 or 3 people in the organisation and get it done. You can't afford that, and I know that. So what I've done is I've done a distributed model where I do it online, and you guys are a little bit different because you get to see me face to face, but the difference for me is, as an incentive, I'm not going to charge you in US dollars. Everything we talk about is US dollars, but today, everything, including the price of books, will be in Aussie dollars. So you don't have to worry too much about that. So here it is. First, I charge $245 for an assessment. I want to know that you're serious about doing it. If that assessment says, I can do it, you can opt out or go in. If you opt out, you spend $245, thank you very much, and all you've got from me is an email saying, yep, I'll do it. If you opt in, it's going to cost you more money. If I don't like what your project is or I don't think you're ready, I might send you back for next year, but I also might just say no thanks. because it might be people, product, industry, market, or people. 5 things we look at. It starts and ends with the people. If I don't get a tick on all of those, I might give you back your money and say, thank you very much, I'm not interested. I don't mind because we've paid for it, so you've come into me, you've committed $245, you're serious about it. If I don't want you, that's the price I get to walk away. So I just give you back your money. From there, if you want to go over the project, it's over 4 months. At the beginning of each month, you pay $1,500. At the end of this project, you've got the money you need. If at the end of this project, for some reason you haven't raised it, we're going to put you on the sideline. I'll bring you in so you can see it, if possible, but I'm going to do it. Myself or my business partner in Formula One business, Simon Frame, will do it. And we'll charge 6% of that capital raised, which you otherwise wouldn't normally pay us because you do it yourself. But it gets done. And some people say, oh, why don't I just pay for that? Get it done. Yeah, if you want that. But what you're missing out on then is how you did it, how it was done. And you'll never own that. Now, there might be a government grant still available. The state government has a grant, 50 cents in the dollar, for teaching entrepreneurs and teaching investors how to get together and do this. So if you have an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. If you have an investor, you want to put it together and you both want to do the course and pay half, whatever, I don't know. But there's the course. So that's what you get. My shameless pitch to you. First question I get after all of these, I'm going to give to you before we start. People say, where do I get my investors from? So I'm just going to run through the list. Very quickly, I get them from your industry. You now understand how I do that. Next is inventors. As people go around the cycle, second time round, they cut through. They become inventors. They become investors because they have the know-how to take the project through to the market. So they don't need me, all they want is to put, and I facilitate that, and I charge 6%, everyone goes through, all happy. I've had one investor go through 11 times. 11 times. So he's making a living out of it. Third lap, which I didn't talk about, is the incubator. You can read about that in the book. Migrants. We work with business migrants for under subclass 132 of the Migration Act, where people coming in with a need to bring in $1.5 million and invest $1 million in a business and have an active role in senior management, play an active role in a senior management position. We help them with that. Their leverage is completely different. Their number one leverage is, I want to take your product back to the country I came from, and I want a geographic on demographic exclusive license for that. So I want my brother-in-law to set up a business over there with your widget, which I'm now investing in. And you know what? In most cases you'll say, yeah, take it, done. You're going to bring $1 million into my project, and I'm going to get $1 million from the government. That's a $2 million value for me. Take it. So it works really well. Next is aggregation. Aggregation, we do aggregations on things like property rent rolls, and we're doing one at the moment with financial planners pulling 1,500 financial planners together in public listing. Now, in a case like that, a lot of these have a lot of good cash flow, but they don't have any blue sky, they don't have any research and development, they don't have any upsell, so they have no high projections. So what we do is we back suitable IP into the company. The inventor comes in and says, okay, I'm ready to go. We put the inventor into the public listing just before it lists. He gets shares in the public company, they're escrowed, so he doesn't get to cash them in for a year or 18 months, whatever it is. But his project is now owned by that company, which he's a shareholder of. And he then runs the R&D department, if you like, and his project evolves through that, and it gets looked after through an aggregation of all these guys being run, and he's running his R&D. Cases like that sounds onerous because you're going to have 1,000 bosses. It's actually not. None of them have your expertise in the area you're going in. And in a case like the financial planners, I've got IP going backing into that. Those guys know they'll be the only ones with the understanding of what they've got. Nobody's going to interfere with them. They're just going to let them go. Next, Indigenous funds. Indigenous funds, a lot of these Indigenous groups have a lot of money. Now, it's not for anyone, not for everyone. It needs, but their selection criteria is different again. Their leverage is all about them, and I understand that. And there's 3 levels of boards you've got to go through to get approvals, so you must be aware of that. Finally, my Rolodex. 32 years, 3 continents. I can call some people. It does help. And I've helped people make money, I've helped people walk away from bad deals. So I'm not saying they owe me favours, but they do take my phone calls. Okay, so thank you very much. You want to take action from here? 2 things. 1, buy my books. This one here, It's a hardcover, $1 billion napkin. It has a model in there for you. You buy that, it's usually $29.95 US. Today you can buy it for $30 because I don't carry change. You can use a credit card, there's a form out there on the front counter. This one here is Formula One for Business. This book is about, if you own a service-based business that's operational, you can double your net earnings in 10 months. There's a formula for that. We've been doing that for something like 5 or 6 years now in Australia. That was an invention that I came up with this co-author, Simon Frame. Now, some of these books don't have both of us on. This one does. So both of us. We actually co-authored that, but I've got covers with only me on it, so I'm trying to get rid of those at the moment. I can't sell them overseas. It's kind of unethical, but I do explain it to people who buy it here today. It's the same book, it just doesn't have this photo on it. Now, Simon came to me, we solved his problem. We built a company together, that's Innovation. He shares it, he runs it for me. He does the cap raise on all of my projects as well. Good, and he works with senior, mid-tier accounting firms, law firms, engineering firms, and we've done very well with all of them. Finally, for those of you who want to take a photo of that, 100dayschallenge.com, that's where you can get enrolled. It's open for the next 2 months. There is a form on the counter over there if you want to. You can actually put your deposit down today with a credit card or whatever. If you put it on a credit card, you don't see it come off your statement. It might be because I'm not going to take you on. I'll let you know probably in a week. So I know you're all dead keen to rush to that counter and snap up books. We've only got a limited amount here, but feel free. Thank you very much for putting up with all that.